Alright, now I'm going to move on to cleaning and deveining some shrimp, getting ready for my night specials. I start off with the 21-25 count, raw shrimp. It's I prefer it raw and on the shell. I find if you clean and devein it fresh daily, the shrimp tends to come out more tender when you cook it. So, start off by peeling it. When you go to peel it, just pull the tail out like that. That leaves you a little bit of tender, kind of shrimp tenderloin on the end. And take a knife, split it right down the back. That exposes the vein, usually. And you can just take your knife and pull the vein right on out. Okay. Of course, once I get several clean, then I'll wash them and season them. At this point, once I get the shrimp all cleaned up, again with my Old Bay, I coat one side really well, and I flip them over, and I coat the other side. Then I just leave them sit in the Old Bay for a minute, let that settle, while I get my pan ready. Now, I cook these in a Teflon pan with nothing but pure olive oil. Coat the bottom of the pan with olive oil. Place it on the burner. And you can put that on at a high heat. You want your olive oil hot.
Just before it smokes, right?
What?
Just before it smokes.
Yes. It'll start to bubble and crack a little bit. At that point, it's ready to cook. Just drop them individually. Be careful because it can splatter on you. Very, very short cook time on this. So when you're ready, you don't want to do this until you have your pasta and your sauce ready to serve. Same a little bit. Approximately maybe 60 to 90 seconds per side. Total cook time 3.5 minutes. Shrimp overcook very easily. It's really easy to overcook shrimp. But at the same time, you don't want them undercooked either. As you can see, you don't have to worry about the Old Bay being too heavy on it. The olive oil cooks off a lot of the seasoning, so it won't be over seasoned. Probably turn that one just a hair early.
Just putting a little brown on it.
Pretty much, just browning the outside and that making sure it's cooked through. You can tell when your shrimp is done is it'll start to curl up into a ball. As soon as it starts to curl up, you want to pull it out. If you let it pull up into a tight ball, then your shrimp's going to be tough. And the shrimp is ready to plate. Alrighty, I already have Alfredo mostly started here. I've got the heavy cream, the half and half, and the cheese mixed in. But what I've done is I've gotten it a little bit thicker than I would like. So to thin it down and make it the right consistency, I'm going to add a little bit more heavy cream to it. Continue.
Start off with about a cup of it, and then when you come to this stage, you determine maybe I need a little more, maybe I don't.
Right. Once you follow the recipe I have in the article, and once you get to the stage, then if it's too thick for you, then you add heavy cream. If it's too thin, then you add more of the roux mixture, which I've mentioned also.
Right.
Which I have some of right here. Okay, you can see the garlic and the onions in it, and it's just a paste that's made from from liquid margarine. And you just add a little bit of that to that, whip it in, stir it in, and it'll thicken up your sauce. Like I say, too thin, add roux, too thick, add more heavy cream. There we go. Now we're getting the consistency I like that. And that's going to come to a light boil, and then it'll be ready. Okay, we're getting the light boil that I like. You can see it starting to boil around the edges. You don't want it to boil any heavier than that or it'll start to scorch. You don't want it to do that, so we're going to kill the heat on that. Now I've got water on in a small pan. Pre-cooked my pasta to an al dente cook, so I'm just going to go ahead and add 2 nice size handfuls of pasta. And by the time that comes up to temperature, that pasta should be perfectly cooked. I leave it al dente, which is like a tough, rubbery stage, so that it cooks quickly.
When you do your morning prep.
Correct. At this stage, we're going to start off seasoning the prime rib. I start off with a coating of garlic powder, starting at one end, lightly coat to the other. If you don't get it quite even, it's not a big deal. It can be smeared around a little bit. I move from garlic to Old Bay. And just working the whole surface. And a little bit of Cajun. Salt and pepper shakers off to the side. Black pepper and salt. At this point, I take a little bit of pre-mixed garlic butter. It's just liquid margarine with minced garlic mixed in. Do a crisscross pattern across the meat. And then finish off with a coat of crushed red pepper. And it's ready to go on the smoker. Just place it in. Stays on for about 2.5 to 3 hours. Rotating it about every 30 minutes. It's time to pull the ribs out of the oven, so I'm going to get my dry rub made up. I start off with brown sugar, that's the base for the rub. Going to loosen it up a little bit. Light brown. Just squeeze enough out into your measuring cup. Press it down so you want a good cup. Fairly level cup of brown sugar. Now, one of my favorite utensils is the souffle cup. I use it for measuring quite a bit. It's a 2-ounce cup. So we've got our cup of brown sugar. We're going to add in 2 ounces of pepper, 2 ounces of salt. A little bit heavy on my cups. And I'm going to manage 2 ounces of chili powder.
Now be honest, Tony.
2 ounces of garlic, yes.
How often do you use measuring utensils when you're making this rub?
This is my favorite utensil.
That's the one, huh?
This is my main utensil. I will normally eyeball the brown sugar, so I do tend to be heavier than a cup on the brown sugar.
Okay.
But I do like to have even amounts of these items, so I use a cup so I get even amounts. Okay. And then get your hands dirty, just mix it up. Sometimes you got to break up the brown sugar a little bit, get it mixed in. I've been making this rub for quite a while, so normally while I'm mixing it in, I can tell by smell that I've got a little bit more black pepper in there than I usually like. So what I'm going to do to offset that is I'm going to add a decent pinch of brown sugar to offset that black pepper. if you smell one seasoning stronger than the others, it's not blending in, then add a little more brown sugar and that'll blend it out. There we go. That's going to be my dry rub for my ribs. We're getting ready to come out of the oven. Ribs are coming out of the oven. We're going to uncover them. So we're going to allow those to cool until they can be handled.
Tell me a little bit about the value of a dry rub as opposed to just a wet barbecue sauce.
I actually use both, as we're going to find out a little bit later in the process. The dry rub going on the smoker, the seasonings, the flavor from the seasoning soaks into the meat and it leaves a nice outer coating. A lot of problems, if you get your ribs tender, they want to fall apart. The dry rub helps to put a coating on the outside to hold it together. And then when I sauce it, when I'm ready to serve, I sauce them right before I serve them, and I caramelize the sauce a little bit on the grill, and that heat brings that seasoning right back to life. So it's just like it came right off. The style of smoker I use, I make a foil pouch for each rib. That's why I have it laid out on the foil. I just fold it over the top, leaving the ends open. So
what's the value of the pouch?
It keeps the meat, keeps some moisture in the meat so it doesn't dry out completely. It also allows me to control the amount of flame getting to the meat so it doesn't blacken. I don't want it blackened. And again, this is due to the style of smoker which I use, which we'll see in the following frames why I do that.
So we're back out to the snow.
One of the things that's unique about the way we do things here is the smoker we have. It's a charred griller. It's kind of a griller slash smoker. We actually burn whole pieces of wood instead of chips. So we're producing our heat and our flavor at the same time. The smoke moves through and comes up through this way. Now, the open flame being so close to the food is the reason for the aluminum pouch and for the pan. So we're going to place that there on the top rack. And then that's ready, and we're just going to let it smoke. All my prep work's done. I'm getting ready to set plates for dinner service. I started off by cutting off a portion of the prime rib, which is about a 14-ounce portion of prime rib, give or take. All right, I've got some of the drippings from where I cooked it. I'm going to come over here to the grill. I'm going to pour some of the drippings onto the grill. Just enough to get wet. And place the prime rib on it. And place a lid over it so that the moisture gets into the meat and heats it throughout without overcooking. Now my baby back ribs, they have come off of the smoker. As you can see, we've got a nice dark crust of seasoning on there. Now what I do is I coat it real good with my own honey barbecue sauce, which I'm not giving you the recipe for. We're just going to coat that evenly so it's well painted. Roll it over. Same thing on this end. As you can see, the ribs look a little bit dry. That's why I choose to use the sauce instead of serving them that way. Pop off the ends. Turn it back over. I'm going to let that heat up on there just a little bit, start to caramelize, and I'm going to put a second coat on before I pull it off for service. I use real honey in my sauce so it caramelizes very well. And that's the plating.
Man, that looks good.
Prime rib, I've moved over to a slightly hotter spot on the flat top so I can get a little bit of browning to it without cooking the interior all the way through. And the prime rib I also serve with the drippings, the sauce made from the drippings. For our second coat over here, I'm going to go ahead and see we've got a nice glassy coat. Second coat doesn't need to be nearly as heavy. We're just smearing it around, keeping nice moisture in it. Roll it over. And like so. Okay. And that is ready to plate. So I'll serve that on a long plate. Like the way it hangs over the edges, kind of Fred Flintstone style. So it looks like a meal in and of itself. And that's the plating.
Man, that looks good.